what was out there in the night sky, stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there is life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? If you have, you were on the fringe.
Welcome to On the Fringe. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jess.
And we have
I'm
Enzo, the famous Enzo Cyril, the science guy.
The famous?
The famous.
Very famous.
Phil is going to try to hop on here after soccer game, if possible. And so we can possibly expect him. Before we get started, let's hear a word from our affiliates. Hey, this is Mark with What If Tomorrow and What If Tomorrow on the Fringe. Be sure to check out our website, whatiftomorrowmedia.com, and look at our cool merch. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, posters, and more. Our affiliates are Duke Cannon, EMP Shield, My Patriot Supply, and Conflicted the Game. Or check out buymeacoffee.com/whatiftomorrow and buy us a coffee. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and share on both Facebook and YouTube. It helps get our content out to others and help our channel grow. Now on with the show. All right. Well, tonight we're going to talk about vile vortices and triangles, some of which overlap, some of which are considered the other possibly erroneously. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to start. They are. Did we want to start with the triangles or the vortices first?
Let's start with the vortices. We'll start with the big ones and then wiggle our way down. Ooh, really quick before we head on, we should give a shout out to Pam. Pam couldn't be here tonight because she is on a cruise right now, probably headed towards the Bermuda Triangle. We
If not in it already.
This week. Yeah.
Ooh.
And it's also her birthday today, so happy birthday, Pam.
That's
Happy
right.
birthday, Pam. Please don't disappear in the
Please
vile vortice, no.
Yes, we need you to come back.
Yes. Because you're
Although
smarter
she'd probably
than
be quite happy to just disappear out there amongst the palm trees. And...
I saw some of the pictures on Facebook. It looked like she was going to have a good time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, let's start with the vile vortices. Let's get them big bad boys out of the way.
So, all right. Well, which one do you have first?
Well, let's talk about them first, so people watching know what the heck we're talking about. So the vile vortices are areas on the Earth's surface which have naturally occurring anomalies due to the planet's natural electromagnetic fields being stronger in these parts than other parts in the world. What was the name of the dude that first?
I believe it was Ivan Sanderson.
Yeah.
Yes.
He coined the phrase of the vile vortices. I think he called them the 12.
Graveyards.
Yeah, the 12 devil's graveyards. I was trying to think of the name of his. He has a book that he wrote that you can go read about his original stuff on them. Anywho, yeah. So the vile vortices are spread kind of evenly in about 2 rows across the world, in the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and then of course the North and South Poles are also ones too. And I don't know, is that your map of them?
That is a map of them, and they are very evenly spaced.
Yes,
and even they actually form a series of triangles around the equator.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look, the way I've got, you can really see it starting on one side of Africa, and then they just go back and forth till they get the other side. They're just super even. There's 6 on one side, or 6 above and 6 below the equator, and then North and South Pole.
Yeah. So if we go, so the Tropic of Cancer line. So we've got the Bermuda Triangle, which everybody knows. We've got the Mohenjo-Daro. We've got the Devil Sea, or the Dragon's Triangle, the Homunculia in Hawaii, the megalith ruins of Algeria, and through the Tropic line, the Tropic of Capricorn line, we've got the South Atlantic Anomaly, the megaliths of Zimbabwe, the Wharton Basin, the Hebrides Trench, and the Fiji Islands, and the Easter Islands, and then of course the North and the South Pole.
Yeah,
right.
That's one of the same maps I found, Enzo.
Yeah, it's not high res, but it kind of maybe gives a better idea of how these things are done. And you see they do kind of have these connecting triangles between them, which form an icosahedron, which for all you Dungeons and Dragons folks out there, that's a 20-sided die. And it forms the same series of triangles all connected together around the whole planet like that.
That's pretty cool.
And
had I realized we were going to play Dungeons and Dragons, I would have got my dice out.
I know.
Super cool. Okay, so let's start off with the one everybody knows, the Bermuda Triangle.
Bermuda.
Is there anything you want to add that somebody may not know about the Bermuda Triangle? Because I went to go pull up my information on it, and I'm so bored with it. I was like, eh.
Well, I mean,
we say that the earliest sighting would be Columbus.
Yeah, he did. There have been all kinds of things sighted in the Bermuda Triangle. UFOs. I mean, anything you can think of has been spotted there.
Strange glowing mists and fogs, strange creatures. Sounds. Yeah, strange creatures, the works. There be dragons here. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah. And it is interesting to note that there are many of the disappearances that they list in the Bermuda Triangle are just navigation hazards. But there's a lot of them that aren't. And those are the ones that make me scratch my head, because a lot of the aircraft stuff, most people don't realize one of the biggest methane fields on the planet is located in the Bermuda Triangle. It creates mist coming up off the water. It looks like fog. When it rises to the surface, it can make a ship disappear without a ripple. And as it rises in the air, just one part per, I forget how much, just like 1% can shut down an engine in an airplane, and it makes your altimeter say that you're climbing when you're actually diving.
That's right.
So
that difference in air pressure, it tricks it.
Difference in air pressure, because they, even today, airplanes use a pedostatic system, and if you change the density of the air, you're going to mess it up. So there's all kinds of natural explanations, but then there's some of the unnatural ones, like the creatures that have been spotted. I mean, giant krakens and whatnot. If you can think of it, it's been spotted in the triangle.
I think it's also fair to mention that also across, they're in the middle of the Atlantic, between Bermuda and the U.S. Oh, that's not what I was going to show. But is the Sargasso Sea, which is in that western part of the Atlantic, where it's kind of where the trade winds take you so far, and then you kind of get slowed down, and then just below the surface you can see these like monstrous, almost tree looking things swaying just below the waves. So that, I'm sure that's a lot of weird sightings, to see something like that out in the middle of the nowhere ocean like that.
Yeah. Well, the seaweed forests, I guess you would call them, out there are massive. They have even caused boats to lose headway because it's just so thick. Although it is very popular with marine biologists because the sheer amount of sea life that congregates there. Here's a
Oh yeah,
picture of your Bermuda Triangle.
it's its own biosphere, the
Mhm.
Sargasso Sea, where all kinds of little creatures hanging on to the stalks and everything else at different levels, different types of life all the way down. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It is. Uh, but I mean, we've all heard the stories, and we've read the stories in the books. Um,
Mhm.
the guy who
I
disappeared while they were watching him.
Yeah, I do think I'm a little burnt out on the Bermuda Triangle, but I do think that the time portal things are interesting. It's one of the few triangles that has this time anomaly thing that happens with it. There's been a couple of reports where airplanes almost collided with another airplane that was not on the radar that happened to look like a World War I or World War II fighter, um, when there wasn't one in the area, and then it would just pop out as if they were kind of getting a glance at something that had happened previously. So I think
There
those are
are
pretty
lots of
interesting.
time slip stories in the triangle, which is what scares me with
Yeah.
Pam going there because she's like prone to them.
That's right.
She
She's had
is.
some exposure. I've
Yeah.
always enjoyed the story of the private pilot that was flying from the Caribbean to, I think it was Miami, and went through a strange glowing cloud and was suddenly like an hour ahead of where he should have been. It was a trip that should have taken him like an hour, only took like 15 minutes. He was like, he pops out of this mysterious cloud and he's like almost over where he was supposed to land. He's like, how did I get here so
That's the
fast?
world's fastest Beechcraft Bonanza. He
Yes.
supercharged. I mean, it's really fast.
He cheated. He took a wormhole.
That's right. Hey, do I get a wormhole generator on my Beechcraft? That's
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 gonna
not
cost you extra.
cheating. It's a shortcut.
maybe that was a special edition.
Oh, limited production run.
There
The
you
only
go.
one in
Very limited.
existence.
Yeah. I'd buy it.
But craft that have experienced these strange things, they do seem to find odd magnetic anomalies just over the skin of the aircraft afterwards, and uh, reports of glowing and like a St. Elmo's fire type of thing, but not
Mhm.
exactly. It doesn't really go away. St. Elmo's fire that's its own thing back in
Yeah.
the lore.
I
It
wonder
was
if
a
the
it
methane
wasn't a
has
good
something
movie
to.
either.
No,
I like the
no,
movie.
it was not.
Of course,
I was
it
thinking
might have been
more Moby
inebriated.
Dick, where you see him get up there
Oh,
because it was bad. It was like bad luck. They had to try and wipe it off, to wipe the St.
oh,
Elmo's fire off of the different parts of the ship and
oh,
stuff like
okay.
that.
Well,
I thought we were talking about like Demi Moore and Judd Nelson. So
I
I
can't
mean, I
imagine a
used to really
situation I would
like
ever talk
Demi
about
Moore,
him,
but
but no, I
so I wonder if it's just wondering out loud because I don't really understand the science of it as well as I should. But it just occurred to me. I wonder if the methane reacts with the St. Elmo's fire and makes it look weird.
could
it
be.
could.
I mean,
I mean,
could make it blow up.
the methane itself it's that's kind of a big deal. But actually, you kind of touched on it earlier. We were talking about the effects, but I don't know if it was really. It should be stressed. I feel a little bit more when you've basically got carbonated seawater, carbonated with methane. It lowers the density of the water to where a ship that would just be normally floating along would sink. It doesn't have the same buoyancy then in that mixture. So
Yeah,
that's
and
one of the theories of all the ship disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle is this big methane, the Earth farts, and this
well,
big methane bubble
Mhm.
comes up,
and
and
there are
they just
giant
lose
craters
buoyancy.
all over the seafloor where
Yeah.
methane domes have burst.
Yes,
Well, those bursts are big enough to sink an aircraft carrier and not even leave a splash. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
there's
I will
lots of
add,
meth.
like, right here is really good to mention as we're talking about all these vile vortices. Many of these places have naturally occurring stuff happening underneath the ocean. Uh, Active volcanoes, thin spots where we're getting actual like magnetic type of bleed throughs and stuff. So a good portion of these disappearances and stuff we're going to be talking about today were most likely naturally occurring in some fashion. So
Right.
just putting that out there.
Then you run into the ones that aren't. But then again, you've also got all these magnetic things going on. And everybody knows that magnetics and frequencies can do weird things. You know, we've talked many times about interdimensional theory and how it would probably be easier to travel between dimensions than it is planets, because it seems to happen accidentally. I would think with some of the geomagnetic anomalies found in some of these areas, that at least some of the things that people experience are due to that.
Mhm.
So, that being
All
said,
right.
everybody knows Bermuda. Let's talk about some of the lesser known ones.
Yeah, Bermuda's old hat.
How about Bass Strait? Have you looked at that one? We don't have to look at that one. That one's in Australia.
I don't have that one listed as
Really?
a vile vortice. Yeah.
Basin, maybe.
Oh,
Well, maybe
boy.
that's
That very poor map that I have calls it Wharton Basin is the west of Australia.
Oh, yeah. I have the Wharton
east of
Basin.
there. Yeah, there you go. Is that the one you were talking about, Mark?
well, no, but let's talk about the Wharton basement. I was talking about triangle instead of a.
Oh, he's on the triangles. We're on the vile vortices, dude.
I know. I got on the wrong tab. I've got like 5,000 tabs open.
Mark thinks of them as Doritos. He's kind of hungry.
Oh,
I mean, yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Okay, well okay, I've got like a listing, so we'll stick to my list and then we won't miss them. So the next one on my list is the Mohenjo-Daro, the Mound of the Dead Men from Pakistan. Do you got that one, Mark?
I do.
Okay.
That one. Yeah. Let me pull up the.
I'm gonna pull that up.
The map here.
This is a 2500 BCE archaeological site in Pakistan. It was discovered back in the 20s or 1920s, I should say, because we're in the 20s right now. This place is very interesting. So it's almost like they uncovered like a volcano issue, although there's no volcano nearby. They're estimating that this Acropolis held about 40,000 or so. And when they started uncovering it, they just started finding skeleton after skeleton after skeleton, all dropped where they were standing. So some great cataclysmic thing happened all at once and took them out. And the skeletons have about 50 times the amount of natural radiation you should have in your body. The items and stuff they're finding, the pottery work and all of this other stuff, has shown signs of being in high heat situations. And they said even some of the walls inside the city had become like vitrified, like almost glass-like, from the flash heat that went through this thing. And now, of course, now there's tons of all sorts of theories about how this has happened. It looks very volcanic, although there's no volcano nearby. And you can even go as far as like the ancient alien, astronaut theorists say that a gang of like batty aliens came down and nuked the spot for some reason.
Why would you nuke Algeria? I would be more inclined to think it was a meteor event like the one in Siberia.
It very well could have been. Interesting to note about this one. So this one has a little bit of a backup to it. Apparently, in the old Hindu scriptures, it explains some of this too. And it also sounds a little bit otherworldly, as if something else came in and devastated the area for some reason. So the ancient alien theorists like love it because
Yeah.
it kind of adds credence to their
They
story.
talk about
The
Vimanas.
Indus River area. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But this,
there are a lot of stories about that. And when you read them, it sounds like they're talking about aircraft, men in armor with rifles,
mhm.
not so. Yeah.
Yeah. And this spot, like all the other ones we're going to talk about, also has issues with magnetic anomalies, planes having issues when they fly over, and it really is. If you get up and look, the military has put out maps of highly concentrated magnetic issue type areas, and these are them. We're actually, all three of us are sitting in kind of an area like this too. Not nearly
Yeah.
as,
Not nearly as bad. Thank goodness.
but
I
yeah,
Right.
mean,
it's actually naturally occurring. So,
some
um,
areas the government actually tells you just to stay out of because it's marked as dangerous.
yeah,
So,
Is that
particularly the one in Japan.
Yeah, they're
yeah,
they're big on that for seagoing vessels for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
the Devil's Sea area.
yeah. In fact, we can do that next if you want.
Yeah, let's jump into that.
Yeah, the
Okay,
devil.
so yeah, the Devil's Sea or the Dragon's
Right.
Triangle.
Yeah, it stretches from around the Tokyo area. Um, I'm not sure what this island is over here, but it's a fairly it's a similar sized area, and ships disappear. Strange creatures are seen. There's some that is where the underwater anomalies that may or may not have been naturally made are located within that. It's just a really strange area. So,
Yeah,
and there is volcanic activity in that area.
yeah,
As
it's full of
we all,
subsea volcanoes. Interestingly, so I looked up the origins of some of this, and of course, it's Japan and China, so they of course have a legend to go with the
of
area.
course,
Yes.
All
So
good stories do.
apparently, yeah, a terrible dragon lives in the sea there, and it has an insatiable hunger, and it will rise up out of the sea if you come within grabbing distance of you. If you come within grabbing distance of it, and it will suck you under and eat you alive.
yeah. So I wonder if I bring it lots of food, if it will become my pet dragon, and we can fly around the world and you know breathe
Perhaps.
fire on things.
I'm assuming since the area is full of subsea volcanoes, many of them active throughout the years, if the dragon wasn't another way to say fiery volcano,
Yes.
Pretty
toxizing
likely.
ships
Yeah.
Well,
and
and
sinking them.
you also get your big gas disruptions from that, which could cause sinkings, and you know
Yeah.
the
Now I
whole
took
area is a volcanic hotspot.
it is. I took down, so like, okay, the anomalies listed with this one were of course the lost ships, and crews lost with them, sea monsters, magnetic anomalies, of course, electronic device failures, which comes along with the magnetic issues. And this one comes with a ghost of a lady ship captain
Oh,
that floats in within the triangle. So kind of interesting.
Hmm.
So let's see here. 9 modern ships and several hundred crew members vanished between 1950 and 1954. In 1955, the Japanese government sent out another ship to the area to investigate and vanished also. Now, I went and took a glance because sometimes you can find information on volcanic activity and stuff in particular areas in different years, but I couldn't find anything on that section in those particular years, so I couldn't corroborate them with anything. Um, let's see here. Genghis Khan lost 900 vessels in 1274 and 1281 with 40,000 crew members missing. He
Wow.
Yeah, he sent out like an attack fleet that didn't make it outside of the triangle. So there's that.
That's a hungry dragon right there. I'm telling you.
Yeah. They started seeing the ghostly lady ship's captain in the early 1800s is when she started showing up. And apparently, if you see her, your ship is doomed. Apparently, she's kind of Mothman-ish in that she has been spotted several times right before huge typhoons have come in.
Is this the same thing as it's like Utsuro Bone or Boone, something like that, where she had like almost like a little UFO thing that the people discovered her and they're like, hey, somebody got rid of this person. Let's push her back in. It's that's maybe a whole different story, but it sounds a little similar.
I do
It
remember
might
that
be
story you're
similar.
talking about. Yes. That would actually be a
got it
pretty
right here.
interesting show.
I got it right here. Because that's from like the early 1803, where this is they have
Maybe
this
they're like,
ancient legend of this thing or craft, I guess, was floating in the water. Fishermen along the side of along the beach saw this thing kind of bobbing along. It slowly drifted towards the close enough to where they could go out there and grab it and pull it ashore. And had this lady in there that didn't speak the language. I seem to recall she had red hair in the descriptions, but I might be wrong with that. Was very tall, the way she was dressed, they assumed she was like some kind of royalty or something like that. But the wise man of the village there was like, this somebody that looks like that, and they were set adrift, and she's not like begging for help, like she's like from a larger boat, like this is a lifeboat kind of thing. They probably cast her away because she's evil. Throw her back in the boat and push that thing back out to sea. And that's exactly what they did.
oh no.
Yeah, I mean, she could have been a European, and
maybe, but they're very specific about how this craft that she was in, it was not a regular boat. It had a fully enclosed top with strange windows, like glass and stuff on the top, and seemed to be kind of like domed on the bottom as well. Not really like a seafaring type craft, but no sails or oars or anything like that. It just kind of was bobbling along, and they pulled it ashore to check it out.
Wow.
And that was 1803. The round vessel drifted ashore on the Japanese coast. Beautiful woman emerged, wearing strange clothing, carrying a box. She was adamant about not letting go of that box. I remember that. But that's a whole story. That's the Atsurabun, I guess is how you would say it, if anybody wants to check that out on their own.
Surabune.
It looks like a UFO. Or like a landing piece of a spaceship, or like
I was thinking like escape pod is what I was thinking.
It kind of looks
there you
something
go.
like that, or maybe one of those enclosed lifeboats like they have now.
Yes, which are round.
Yeah,
To keep them from turning over. So I don't know.
Could be a time slip.
Could be a time slip. Could be a lot of things, but it was certainly very out of the norm for 1802 in Japan.
Yes, 1802 Japan was. It's kind of a wild time too. They had a lot going on.
Yeah.
But you said the mysterious female sea captain. That's what made me think of it. It's like, is this the same story? Maybe not.
It could very well be like one that's broken off of the other one, or you know how stories work. They could absolutely have something to do with the other. Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. So through the 40s and the 50s, numerous fishing boats and over 5 military boats disappeared within that area. And then in 1944, a Japanese pilot claimed he witnessed a huge sea monster swimming quickly with its head up. It had 2 triangular wings, and it was around 150 feet long, is what he claimed.
Rodan.
Perhaps it was the dragon.
I don't know. I like
it was hungry.
better.
Yeah, we're sticking with the Japan mythos. It's Rodan. Okay. Looking for Godzilla.
Or Mothra.
Or Mothra, were there 2 twins?
Yeah.
Singing.
Oh, we're gonna have to get
hate it.
together and watch some old Japanese monster movies. 'Cause, they're some of the coolest.
I think I've got my
Well, if
MST3K
you
shadow down here. We can set that up and just
set your course directly
Mystery
southeast
science.
of that area, you run into the Loyalty Islands. I believe that's probably on your list, isn't it?
No.
No?
What's the Loyalty Islands?
that's the one north of New Zealand,
Yeah, that's the one. It's over there by
east
Australia.
of Australia.
Yeah. But it's got a lot of the same thing. It's got disappearances, ships, sea monsters, just the normal weird time stuff. Let me see if I've got something specifically on the Loyalty Islands. It may be called something else too.
Okay.
I've got so much stuff up. I'm just going. What 3 up? So this is between. Oh, that's the Polynesian Triangle. We don't need that.
That's not the same thing.
No, that's bigger. Way
Oh.
bigger. That goes clear up to Hawaii. But they've got earthquakes. They've got volcanic activity. Everything that we see in the Devil's Triangle or Devil's or Dragon Triangle or whatever you decide to call it. A lot of the same things.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of the same stuff.
It's got the same kind of reports. In fact, almost all of these have a lot of the same kind of reports.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hamakulia.
Yeah,
Hamakulia.
The Hamakulia. It's a volcano. It's in the Ring of Fire section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's one of those ones where it's got the strange powers and the magnetic anomalies,
and the Polynesian Triangle is actually a triangle drawn between the Loyalty Islands, Hamakulia, and the Devil's Triangle.
Okay.
So, and that's a huge triangle. It takes up
wow,
a large part of the Pacific Ocean. It's all
it's
on ley lines. This is all ley line stuff.
Yes, yeah, it is.
All of these are on the ley line. So.
Mm-hmm.
Just
which is
the
what ley lines are. Ley
Yeah.
lines are magnetic lines,
drawn
and
between interesting places.
well, I think
Or dangerous.
the interesting places are interesting because they're on the magnetic line, because magnetics do all sorts of fun, wonky stuff, as we're learning right now.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So,
And the Hamakulia volcano area has all the usuals. They've got missing planes, messed up electronic devices, disappearing people,
sea monsters.
Sea monsters, disappearing ships. It's all the same stuff. I couldn't find like a super exciting story about this place though.
No,
but it was just all the usual.
Yeah, it's kind of out of the way. There's not a whole lot going on out there.
Well, let's make our course southeast again. And guess where we're at? Easter Island.
Easter Island.
That's kind of the only island out there. So
it's the only thing out there. It's like
mm-hmm.
the navigation to have found that by some ancient culture. That's, to me, that's one of those arguments that this was during the Younger Dryas that somebody found this and all that, because
when there was
the ocean
water.
was so much lower and there were so many other little like land bridges here and there between there and the rest of the Polynesian countries and the South Pacific. I can't believe that someone would just randomly go, I'm going to go that way because I saw a bird go that way, and I'm going to keep going that way until I find this island with giant stone heads on it.
Well, I love listening to the weird ideas of how they move the heads.
Oh yeah.
Well, now they're not just
aliens and-
heads.
Well,
There's
yeah,
full bodies,
well,
remember,
they're buried
underneath there.
underneath.
True. They're holding their belly.
I have seen the traditional way of moving the Moai statues. They make them walk
Hmm.
Just
with
back
3
up one
ropes.
side. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to watch it because they look and they.
They look like a Monty Python movie. But
Yeah, they're kind of scary looking when they're moving them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, when that goes over, it's going to be bad. So, but I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff reported around Easter Island too. All of these locations are just weird.
yeah. All right, let's see here. I've got the megalithic ruins of Algeria.
Yeah.
This is kind of like going back to kind of like the Mohenjo-daro kind of area there. So this place is famous for its 13 pyramids that sprawl over this area, and underneath of it is just a huge maze of just crap. Maze, just room after room after room that they don't know what was used for. And this one has the same deal. We've got magnetic anomalies. We've got electronic devices that foul up. And apparently the mazes underneath the pyramids are quite haunted.
Mummies.
Yeah, it's probably the mummies. The most interesting one, and this may have something to do with the magnetic thing. This place, they say, if you stand in the middle of all the pyramid area, there's a very loud hum at all times of day and night. They said it sounds a
Interesting.
little mechanical.
Well,
Heard of
I
that
mean,
before? That's interesting. I didn't know that
Yeah.
they had a resonance going on down there.
There is one, and it messes with their recording devices and stuff, like people trying to film in the area. Apparently, filming equipment and microphones and stuff really picks this resonance up badly. So you've got this constant hum happening in the back of it.
And that's not the main pyramids in like Cairo. This is west of that.
No, yeah. This is in Algeria. This is they're not like the big pyramids of Giza. These are a little smaller and not nearly as fancy pyramids.
Beginner pyramids.
Yeah, beginner pyramids. They had better things to do.
But-
They were
but to be
building a
honest,
maze.
If they're going to say, the pyramids are a power source or something like that, you would want it on one of these spots. You would want it on one of these resonance type areas, which that's the thing that always surprised me when I heard you guys talk about that. And I think I pulled up like that first original kind of crappy map that we were looking at earlier, the hand drawn one. And I was like, there's nothing over over Cairo type area. I would have thought that would have been like ground zero for something like that.
No, you would think, but Egypt doesn't have the most pyramids. Do you know who has the most pyramids? The ancient kingdom of Kush, which is south of Egypt. So, and they're weird. They're really steep sided.
Oh,
they're
okay,
just,
those guys.
Yeah, I'll get a picture of them because let's go down a rabbit hole.
Let's go.
That's what we do.
It kind of we should have named the show Down the Rabbit Hole or something.
We couldn't. There's already one called that, and it's weird. You don't want to go there.
You got a bunch of weirdos on that channel.
Yeah,
no, this is like beyond weird. This is medication weird.
Ooh, boy.
These are some pictures from Sudan, which is where Kush used to be. And let's see. Let me share. Oh, wrong. I'm technologically retarded. Okay, so I used to be pretty good at stuff like this, but not so much anymore. There's some pyramids in the background. Kush, um, or Nubia. Here, let's look at this one. Here, just look at a Google image search. Look at all these pyramids. There are just tons of them.
Yeah.
So
it looks like something from like a sci-fi movie set.
it really does. But I mean, and you look in the background, all the weathered ones, more weathered ones in the background. They're just everywhere out there, and of course, they've got the fancy entrance ways, and all of these are supposed to be royal burials. So, I mean, lots of pyramids. You would think there would be a hum out there.
Maybe there is.
Maybe there is. Maybe it's just the wind blowing through all the sharp edges. I don't know.
That's right.
Okay. Moving on. Let's do the South Atlantic anomaly, because I know Enzo is super excited. Do you want to tell us about the...
Yeah, I have a picture of that, actually. We'll talk about that.
This is actually one of the ones I think is most interesting.
Going back to our original map here, we've got this triangle area to the east of South America there. I don't know what these numbers are on this map. I don't know why they're numbered this way, but anyways, we have this one here. Now, this one is, if we're going to start talking about how magnetic they are, magnetic anomalies go, this is the daddy of all of them. This one is like very, very strong, to the point where NASA, which this is a photo of, or a diagram of the magnetic anomaly there.
Yeah, they can't even take pictures.
Well, yeah, it won't smile. That it won't. They like warn to not take any data from satellites or spacecraft seriously when they're passing over this area, because it affects stuff in low Earth orbit. The magnetic anomaly is so strong. A little notoriety in just the last week is, of course, last Monday we had the big solar eclipse, and during that, some folks noticed on this one weather station chart that has satellites that monitors like wave heights and currents and things like that, had this strange blob appear, which, according to its own indications, this is like a 48-foot wave, basically, that just appeared and then started moving up the western coast of Africa.
That's basically a tsunami.
Pretty much, except it's not caused by anything. There were no geologic, there were no earthquakes, there was no meteor impacts. All of the buoys that they have, because there's a whole series of buoys out in the ocean all over the place, none of them were indicating this. It was basically just the satellite view was picking this up. Now, the company that runs this, the software and all that stuff, said, oh, well, we had some new modeling, and this is obviously a glitch later on. But it's a little curious that it just happens to be that it falls under, close to that one, better illustrated by that, by this one, where it does kind of swing over.
Well, and the base of it is right where it started.
Yeah. Now, the theory of why there's such a very strong magnetic field there, as opposed to at the poles, the poles, it makes sense because we have this rotating molten core of iron nickel in our core of our Earth, that it's spinning, which acts like a dynamo and creates a magnetic field around the entire planet, mostly at the North Pole and South Pole. Except for this is like weird. The theory, they believe, through various seismic studies and stuff like that, examining things deep inside of the Earth, they think at some point in the early history of Earth, when it was first formed into a ball and was still kind of a little slushy and all that, two other, well, one much larger than the other, objects, like moon-sized objects, collided with the Earth and are mostly embedded deep under the Earth's surface, under these, where these anomalies are. And that's what's causing it, is whatever these other two objects are. Hi, Phil.
Good seeing
Hey,
you,
Enzo.
buddy.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
Hey, you too.
But that, it's not the best, explanation of what it is, but it's certainly, that's what everybody's going on, is these giant bodies collided with the early Earth and just kind of buried themselves in the molten surface of the Earth and just settled. We're still talking hundreds of miles below the surface of the Earth, but they had to be like mostly iron to create these giant magnetic fields that disrupt satellites in space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd even read where the space station has to have extra shielding just to get through that section there because of the levels of radiation. Screws with their stuff.
Well, what it does is it kind of screws with that natural magnetic shield that we talked about earlier that goes from pole to pole. It kind of deviates a little bit around there, so a little bit more radiation. Now, granted, they're much higher up, but so they get versus somebody that lives in that part of South America, the southern part of Brazil there. It's not like they're frying as soon as they step outside or anything like that. They're okay. But if you go much further up, though, you're in bad shape. And which, I know this isn't necessarily the same, but I've always noticed that there's a huge amount of like UFO and cryptid, like super weird cryptid stuff that goes on in South America versus a lot of other places. And I don't think we hear that much about it, mostly because of the language barrier, but I don't know that if this has anything to do with it, but I would certainly point towards that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how you're even able to navigate through there with that big of a magnetic anomaly.
A lot of people had a lot of problems back, in the early days where they were kind of depending on that classical, floating magnetic compass, where it was just a, piece of metal that they rubbed against a piece of lodestone and had it sitting on a cork in a bowl, and it would always point north. But of course, once you go past the equator, now it's going to point south. But if you're traveling like south of Africa, it's like, okay, it flipped over, so that's the South Pole. Then it starts skewing all over the place because now your North Pole could be any magnetic source anywhere in that whole blue zone in that picture. So there are a lot of folks, because the what is that? The Cape of Good Hope, Cape of Good Hope, right here in the southern, was extremely hazardous to navigate. Sure, there are a lot of like shallower areas closer in, but part of it was because they're trying to trust their compass, and you can't trust a compass out there.
No,
that's crazy.
That's why they have sextants and everything else. You got to take astrological
multiple
sightings.
Sources.
So,
but there you go. That's the South Atlantic magnetic anomaly.
Awesome. All right, the next one, the megaliths of Zimbabwe. So we have another archaeological site. This is almost just like the other ones. It's an old ancient city. This one was massive too. They estimate it took them over 300 years to completely build it from wall to wall. It was fully fortified, well beyond their years, apparently. And this is one of those places where the stones fit so perfectly that there's no mortar, that you can't slide the paper in between the stones. And they're sure that aliens came and helped them develop this city that was far beyond what it should have been. type of thing. And same dance and story, magnetic anomalies, problems with instruments. I couldn't actually find any kind of hauntings or
Yeah,
anything that went along
is
with
this
this
the one
one.
that was just abandoned? Like the other one, they found bodies and stuff. This one, there's
Mhm.
it looks like everybody just left.
Yeah, they just left. They just walked.
Bye.
Yeah, huge city, just left it behind. They headed to Bermuda because they heard it was sunny there.
It's the
And they got
shorts, man.
lost. Yeah.
It's the shorts.
So the one I have after that is the Wharton Basin. It's up in the upper part of the Indian Ocean area there. This basin area is supposedly, they're estimating, older than the Mesozoic. I said that wrong. That era that starts with an M. I can't say it. Mesozoic. Shoot. Anywho, moving on.
You had it.
The
These are
interesting thing
Wharton-based.
about this one in particular, same dance and story with all the magnetic stuff, of course. This area apparently is well known for starting extraordinarily huge earthquakes, like they resonate from this particular basin for some reason, and they haven't been able to figure out why. It's not volcanic, so we don't have seismic, and we don't have a good reason for the seismic activity radiating out from this area. They're guessing that it also was a slip plate area for when the continent started the drift. But they don't
There's a
have any
theory
really
that
good.
there is a new fault line, but it hasn't formed yet. So, yeah, that's a really interesting area.
Yeah. Okay, the last one we have is the Hebrides Trench, in the southern Pacific Ocean.
That actually is right around the Loyalty Islands.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, this one is the earthquake killer. This one is the one that dishes out the most earthquakes out of all of them. It put out between March 1875 and May 2023 16 major earthquakes, all between 7.0 and 8.1 in magnitude.
Wow.
That is,
Yeah.
Isn't that the same area where they said they found another continent just off of
It could
Australia?
be. This is one of the deep sea trenches. So this one goes down 4.4 miles deep. It's one of the areas where it has the crazy sea creatures towards the bottom of it, because it's just so deep. You know, there's parts of it we've never seen. So
hold on just a second.
Yeah, I'm looking it up real quick.
Well, if you're going to go back to old legend stuff where, the war between Atlantis and Mu, that's where Mu would have been. Right?
No,
Okay.
that would have been closer to India, wouldn't it?
I thought it was more out in the Pacific.
They don't know where it was, so I mean,
Well, that's true.
that's true. But then again, we get into the whole, these were probably actual places, not just legendary places, before the Younger Dryas, when the sea levels came up 400 feet. Their whole continent sized slices of ground just got swallowed up by the sea all over the world, not just, where we consider Atlantis to have been, all over the world, just giant swaths of ground gone in days, weeks, and months, just swallowed up. And a lot of people couldn't escape because the water was coming up faster than they could travel. And they thought it was going to go down.
Mesozoic. I got it. A little late to the game, but Mesozoic.
Yeah, here's that river I was talking about right here. Oh, I messed it up here. See if I can zoom in a little bit. But yeah, it's right around New Zealand. Looks like maybe pretty close to the same spot you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's yeah, that the Hebrides Trench
Zealandia.
is really close to that.
You say it's probably
Those yeah, it's right in there. That's right in the
That's
area of the
about where that triangle is.
Loyalty,
So
Loyalty Islands. Yeah, it's in it.
yeah.
So
Yeah, if you look at that whole picture, if you can imagine, the ocean being 400 feet lower, you'd have quite a bit of those lighter colored areas would probably be above the waterline.
looks
Would
like
be
you could probably
landmass, yeah.
walk from New Zealand to Australia.
Pretty close.
That'd be a whole
Certainly from
continent
there
right
to,
there.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this huge area. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that's exactly what happened. I mean, the geologists think so anyway. And that gets us into the theory that, civilization has risen and fallen so many times, and we wouldn't know because all the records are wiped out.
Or destroyed, yeah.
Yeah, everything's destroyed. Yeah, everybody started from scratch. So
I'd be curious to know, talking about that, how many, because the big thing right now is microplastics. I'd be curious to know how deep, if they had a core sample or something like that, how they do the ice cores and all that. I'd be
Right.
curious to know if there's microplastics that deep.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, of course,
'Cause I think
an
that would
advanced
be
civilization doesn't necessarily have to have had plastic either.
right.
They can, if they can pour mold giant megalithic structures to make walls that you can't even put a razor blade between, I think they could probably fashion a bottle or a bowl out of something other than plastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy stuff they were doing. Well, and there's just so much evidence for all kinds of weird stuff, and past civilizations. We're down the rabbit hole again, but
Yeah, get further and further away from those triangles.
well,
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff is reputed to be around some of these triangles. People have thought Atlantis was underneath the Bermuda Triangle for years.
Yeah.
Although I think it was closer to the coast of Africa, if not in Africa. But with the water level being that low, hell, it was probably not that big of a deal to travel. The
Yeah.
distance would have been greatly reduced.
Yeah.
So
The oceans and the whole back in those days when the oceans were so much lower, where you had giant land bridges connecting, like we just saw in that picture Phil pulled up, that's going to affect the water currents of the ocean as it is, as it lays at that lower
that'll
level.
affect
So
the entire climate.
exactly. So
because
you're going to have areas where you're not getting like those warmer currents moving up into areas, making it, like Western Europe is rather temperate for as far north as it is. It should be much colder if it was like in the U.S. is. If you draw a line, over to Canada and stuff like that, it's pretty bitterly cold there. But they have that warm water current that runs up
Sweeps
that
up.
side of the Atlantic. You may not have that in a world where the oceans are 400 or so feet shallower. So those currents are going to be very different. So, and maybe even the reverse is true, where areas that are not that hospitable now may have been very hospitable back then. So it all depends on how those currents ran.
The Sahara was at one time one of the greenest places on the planet. there's evidence of huge forests and massive grasslands, lakes that made the Great Lakes look, normal. So, and
Yeah, there's plenty of old school evidence that shows that there were very large bodies of water in there. That if you look at satellite data and stuff like that, you can clearly see where it would all rushed out to the Atlantic at some point. So it's it's pretty strange. There's a lot of history that we just don't know because of just all that. Like I said earlier, those information type centers are just gone, got washed away.
Well, and it's interesting how many of these triangles and vortices, like the Algerian megaliths, that was a civilization. We don't know what happened to them. And the Zimbabwe, that was a whole different set of civilizations. You look around here, Easter Island, that was another civilization. It seems like, and the Indus River Triangle, that was a huge civilization there. So it seems like not only the weird stuff gathers in these places, but so do people in a lot at one time or another.
Yeah. Do you think that was because they saw it as like a spiritual center?
It could be. They're all on the ley lines, so major ley lines.
Right.
So that's likely, I think.
Yeah, a lot of these triangles we're getting ready to talk about are formed inside of these ley lines, these naturally occurring ones. In fact, the Caney area to Arc City, through Caney, down to Tahlequah, over into just above Oklahoma City, and then back up into Arc City is a triangle that we sit in, just full of activity. With 3 active ley lines around it. You get inactive areas too. That's why not every place is part of a triangle.
Right. Well, we want to start hitting those triangles now. I think we've hit the
We have.
The vile
We've covered
vortices.
the globe with vile vortices.
We are all vorticed out. All right. So this is actually kind of fun for me. I was excited when Mark said we were going to do this because I've had so much information on all these triangles for so long, and we've never really used them for a show. So I got to pull out old notes. Yay!
Yay!
So there are actually 13, bad number, 13 major triangles in the world that are like famous. There's actually a 14th one getting ready to come up. They're trying to figure out if it's an actual one or not, and we'll talk about that last. But I'm going to start off with like the Bridgewater Triangle. Has everybody here heard of the Bridgewater? It's in Massachusetts. Yep. And these triangles are going to go, so we're going to get away from magnetic anomaly stuff, and we're still going to have a lot of missing planes and things like that. But now we're going to get into some of the woo kind of stuff. Yep. We're gonna be climbing into some alien stuff, cryptids, hauntings, all sorts of missing 411 stuff. So this one I think goes from
Bridgewater is one of those famous spots that I always use as an example for all of that paranormal potpourri happens within this very tiny area. That's your cryptids, your ghosts, your UFOs, and everything in between.
Yeah, this one is about 200 square miles. And this one, I put down like a little list here for myself of just basics. So this place is known for UFOs, poltergeists, orbs, fireballs, Bigfoot, giant snakes, thunderbirds, animal mutilations, Pukwudgies, which are tricksters. They're Algonquin, I believe. Native American curses on the land, ghosts, and black helicopters, which is basically Massachusetts' answer for Men in Black. where we get them in vehicles, they get them in black helicopters. Right? So, Nutty Space, we don't have time to go into depth on each one of these triangles because each one could actually be its own show. But
Really good.
we'll touch a little bit on them. Is there any that you wanted to talk about, Enzo? Is there like some stuff in particular you like to chit chat about?
Not really. I just know that it's one of those weird spots like that in Mount Shasta, Skinwalker Ranch type places, and Caney, and places like that where you get all right within a very short walk.
Yes. It's just full of hauntings, a whole bunch of old Native American curses and things. And they've got like all these little strange rocks that just pop up with writings on them. They have the Dighton Rock, which just has just really weird writings on it, like in a language nobody knows. It was just found one day on some property. They have they call it the Solitude Stone or the Suicide Stone, and it was found located near West Bridgewater. I'm trying to find the information on it. It was found near a missing person's body. They found this missing person dead, and they found this rock nearby, and it says, "All ye who in future days walk by Nunattesset stream, love not him who hummed his lay, cheerful to the parting beam, but the beauty that he wooed."
I'm
I
sure
may have
I
just
could.
cursed everybody. I don't know.
I'm sure I
Just
could
put the
parse
whammy
that, but that's yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's home to
bad
like
poetry.
5 haunted cemeteries, uh, haunted rocks, coves, haunted schools, factories, hospitals, you name it, they've got it.
Sounds
Inside
like
the
a good
Bridgewater
place
Trench.
for a Fallout game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's like swampy areas around there that are full of all kinds of wackiness. That's where all your cryptids and stuff are at.
Yeah. The giant snakes, they have apparently a section full of just giant, like, anaconda Amazon snakes. So,
Which
that,
again, this is way in the Northeast. It's very cold. You wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of big, any kind of cold-blooded animal like that.
that's why they eat people so
Right.
much. They gotta stay warm.
Gotta stay warm.
Keep the calories up. Man, it looks like they're having a good party out there where you're at.
Yeah, they're having.
Oh, they're dancing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Trying to do a show here.
Whoa, that one lady was getting with it there.
Whoa!
Look at her go. Oh, they got a whole like thing going on.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
On the
Anywho,
line of
must be
two.
good.
okay. The Bennington Triangle in Vermont.
Yes. I don't
So-
think I have a picture of the Bennington Triangle.
The
But-
Bennington is known for the mountain. So now we're going to go into missing 411 type of stuff. So it centers on Glastonbury Mountain. The area includes Bennington, Woodford, and Shaftesbury and Somerset. So it's all just kind of around this mountain area. Anomalies include, of course, all the missing people, the Bennington Monster, which is their own Bigfoot, you could say, their brand of Bigfoot, UFOs. They have a radio station that's supposed to be a dead radio station, but you can hear voices on it all over the mountain. Right? Mysterious crashed planes. They have found crashed planes and don't know where they came from. Nobody in them. There's like 3 of them on the mountain. Right?
Okay.
Strange. Unexplained navigational mishaps. So we've got like a magnetic thing probably going on here. Strange lights and sounds. Native American curses again, of course, and strange creatures that climb all over this mountain area. Now for the missing people, I kind of made a little rundown of how this went here. So between 1945 and 1950, 5 people went missing on the mountain. So in 1945, Mitty Rivers went missing, 74 years old. 1946, Paula Weldon, 18-year-old. She was out hiking. 1949, James Tedford. He was returning home. He was 68 years, and he's a crazy one. He actually left on a bus and vanished while he was on the bus.
Disappeared off of the bus.
Wow.
Yes. He got onto the bus to go on his way. People saw him getting onto the bus. He never got off on his stop.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now that's a good one.
Yes. 1950, Paul Jeffson, who was 8 years old, he left in a truck and never got out of the truck. He disappeared while he was in the truck, taking the same route at the base of the mountain. 1950, Frida Langer, 53 years old. She went hiking. She was actually, they found her body later. But the interesting thing is they found her body 6 months after she went missing, and they found her laying across the start of the trail where hundreds of other people had gone hiking.
I remember that
Always
one.
Works, man.
I think that one was on the Missing 411 channel.
Yeah, this is a major Missing 411 area for Pleiades. 1943, Carol Herrick, she had gone hunting. But her body was literally found just 3 days after she went missing. So you're thinking not that crazy, but she was actually surrounded by huge, mysterious footprints. Carol, excuse me. It's a he. Carol's a he. And when they did the autopsy, they found out he had actually been squeezed to death.
Oh, wow.
What?
So that may be more Bigfoot-y or something. I don't know.
Well, what was he
Hugs.
trying to do with those Bigfoots?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't like him and his gun. So, yeah,
Maybe
those are the missing 411 people from the Bennington Triangle. So don't hike up into the mountains or drive that river road at the bottom.
Let's not do that road trip.
Yeah,
I'm thinking we should avoid that one.
So the next one I've got is the Dragon's Triangle, which we've done because it's a vile vortice. And then the Michigan Triangle. I kind of wish Big Willie was here because this is kind of his stomping ground.
Well, the Michigan Triangle, that one has got it all. I mean, it's got missing planes, missing boats, missing people who come back and don't know where they've been. At the time, I believe it was the site of the largest loss of life in a plane crash in the continental United States. I had a something Orient flight.
Yeah, it was the Northwest Orient flight.
Northwest
2501.
Orient.
Yeah.
That was right over here in this area.
UFOs. They have the underwater Stonehenge that has the mastodon carving in it.
Yep, I remember that.
The time portal vortex. Yeah.
That underwater Stonehenge thing. That whole area and much further south than that was covered in like 2 miles of ice during the Younger Dryas, prior to the Younger Dryas. How old is that thing?
Right.
Yeah. Old. So I wrote down just kind of a smidgen of some of the major disappearances and stuff over the years. The first recorded one was in 1679. The Ligue Riffon, the entire ship and crew went missing. 1891, the Hume, a full lumber ship disappeared along with its crew. One of the most interesting ones I found, it actually was lost and found twice. So it's the Rosabelle is what it was called. In 1875, a crew on another ship found the Rosabelle floating upside down in the water, but it was in perfect condition. They were actually able to roll it back upright, but the entire crew was gone, but the ship was completely intact in perfect condition. It was in such great condition that they drug it back in and put it back to use again. And it went on for another 50 years when it happened again. So they found it, another crew found the ship floating out upside down in the water. It wasn't in the best of shape this time. It had been through something, and they rolled it over. But the crew was missing again. The whole crew. They didn't find anything from them out in the water. So yeah, so it happened twice. And I think that they had 11 people in each crew each time. So 11 apparently was a bad number for this boat.
Yeah.
Maybe
sailors are usually fairly superstitious.
It tipped it over.
Yeah.
It had a bad center of gravity.
Were all these 11 sailors got overweight with all hanging on one side of the ship?
They all got sick. Went to the
had a really good cook on board. Yeah.
Food poisoning.
Sailors are usually fairly superstitious about stuff like that. I'm shocked they could get a crew that would take the thing back out again after the first time.
Yeah, okay, moving on, because there's even more weird ones. So in 1937, and a lot of people might recognize this one because a lot of times when they do the Michigan Triangle, this is the one they really talk about. Captain Donner, famous captain because he went missing from his own cabin. He had gone into his cabin for the evening to have dinner and to go to bed. And in the morning, they went to go wake him up. The door was locked from the inside, and they were knocking on it because they thought he was sleeping late or maybe he'd gotten sick. And they ended up having to break the door down to get in, and he was just gone. He hadn't even eaten the dinner from the night before. It was still sitting on the table. The windows had not been opened because they would have still been open if he'd jumped out. And the door locked from the inside. He was just gone. They never ever saw him again.
Wow.
Kind of weird. Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah. 1950 was the disappearance of the Northwest Flight 2501. And the pilots reported seeing a strange red light hovering over the lake before they went down. I don't think they ever found the airplane, but they did find bodies. So they didn't completely disappear.
Lots of stuff floated up.
Yeah. 2007 is when they discovered the Stonehenge, the sunken Stonehenge, 40 feet down. In 1919, I found this. 2 giant balls of fire fell into the lake and caused a massive explosion that shook Michigan.
Ooh.
Kind of interesting. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Now, the one that I love the most isn't even a ship or a plane one. So in 1978, on February 20th, Stephen Kubacki went missing. He was going out skiing when it was icy and snowy, and they assumed that he had gone too far onto the lake and had maybe gone through the ice and drowned. But they followed his footsteps out, and they just stopped. Like there was a footstep and then there was nothing. Meanwhile, 15 months later, after this date, after they had proclaimed him dead in the icy water, he woke up in a field in clothes that were not his, near his aunt's home, 700 miles away in Massachusetts. And
Yeah,
does
I remember
not know
this
how he got there. Yeah.
Yep, that's one of the big ones.
Massachusetts. How far away from Bridgewater?
Now that's a good question. Because there was a theory that you could use these triangles to travel from one to
Orbits go
another.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Although
Yeah,
15 months, you
months
could have
later.
walked.
There was a really big UFO sighting there back 1994. They covered it in great detail on the reboot of Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, season 3, episode 2. It was a mass sighting. There was like over 300 phone calls to 911 of seeing this object floating around and stuff like that. It's a pretty interesting episode if you want to check that out.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho, yeah, if you're really interested in triangles, start out the Michigan one because there's so much more than that. We don't have time to go. I mean, we could probably do whole shows on just each one of those incidents, like going into detail on all.
Oh yeah, and there have been whole shows done on each of these incidents.
So interesting, so interesting. Yeah, so moving on, the next one I have on my list is the Matlock Triangle in Derbyshire, Great Britain. So this place is known for ball lightning and UFOs, hauntings, and it has a mermaid.
Oh, I've heard of this one.
Sign me up.
Yeah. It's also known for its UFOs. So the Derbyshire area is the 4th highest UFO sighting area in the world. It has 24 reports monthly.
Oh, wow.
On average. Yeah.
That sounds like a trip.
It's also known, so in 2004, I said earlier, it's known for its ball lightning, which happens often apparently in the area. But in 2004, apparently, all the ball lightning got together and decided to make one giant ball lightning, and it shot across the sky there. And they said they could smell sulfur for like hours afterwards. It was just a giant orange fireball that shot over the area. Yeah.
You said for hours?
Yeah, for hours afterwards, they could smell that sulfur, that burning. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just full. I mean, I have a list about a page long here of just haunted churches and inns. And I think every business in this area is haunted.
Oh, wow.
So
good for business.
Yeah.
Even
one interesting one I found.
Coming back.
The one interesting one I found is, so there is a lake or reservoir, I should say, near Derbyshire. It's called the Lady Bower Reservoir, and it has consistent ghost planes that go over the top of it.
Oh yeah, I've got an image of that. Yeah, that's actually a pretty big article I found about the ghost plane of Derbyshire.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, so all sorts of stuff. The mythical mermaid that's supposed to live there lives in a pond in a place called Kinderscout. So if you wanna go check her out, she's in Kinderscout in the pond. So be careful when you go fishing.
Yeah, I hear they're not very nice.
Beware of strange women with swords.
Looks like Daryl Hannah. I don't know.
Daryl Hannah back then or Daryl Hannah now?
Oh, back then.
Okay.
For sure. Fishtail and all. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so the next one I have is the Bass Strait Triangle in Australia.
Yeah.
This one goes from Tasmania to Victoria, I believe.
Yeah, and they've had a lot. It's not very big. One of the big stories was a fellow flying, I believe he was flying southwest towards one of the islands that make up the triangle. in an older 182, and he was seeing metallic objects flying in formation with him before he disappeared. And then years later, they found a few pieces that might have been the wreckage of his aircraft. But he was describing them over the radar for quite some time, or radio for quite some time.
Yeah, this one has a long list of UFO and disappearing planes. It's known for missing ships too. And this one's got portals. So people popping out, disappearing one place and popping out another. Let's see here. I'll read through a few of them. 1858, the HMS Sofo. It's a ship. A whole crew of 100 disappeared, but the ship stayed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the same thing happened in 1901 to the SS Federal. The ship stayed, but a crew of 31 disappeared. 1906, the SS Ferdinand Fisher completely disappeared. Let's see here. In 1906, oh, this happened all at the same time. The SS Amelia J, the SS Southern Cross, and the Air Company DH-9 all disappeared while strange lights were being reported from the coast. 1934, the de Havilland Express disappeared. 1935, the Luina airliner disappeared but reappeared, missing 3 crew and 2 passengers. Good Lord. An entire 17 Bristol Beaufort bombers that were flying in formation went missing during World War II.
Those are pretty good sized planes too.
Yeah. The de Havilland Tiger Moth plane went missing, came back, but was missing its 2 crew. 1978, a Cessna disappeared after reporting a UFO. In 1979, a Charleston yacht disappeared with its entire crew. 1978, a crew caught a picture of a UFO. Good Lord. It just keeps going. 1934, an airliner vanishes after reporting a UFO. 1966, this is the Melbourne school children when they all witnessed the UFO there.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. Good Lord, that could be a whole show on its own. That's an interesting one.
I mean, we could do that. That is, there is a ton of stuff just in a very tiny geographic area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1978, several witnesses reported watching a portal open in a woman's front lawn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 1944, dark shadow. Yeah, a dark shadow reported by a plane flying by at fast speeds. Fighter pilot sees strange lights. It just keeps going. Yeah. Entire crew's missing, but the boat comes back, and it's just, yeah. That one's a nutty space. Another
the insurance company must
one.
like that when the boat stays and all their
right.
The crew's gone.
We don't have to pay anybody.
That's very Mary Celeste.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's like the Mary Celeste on steroids right there.
Yeah, Sylvian asked, what is the most repeating pattern with those triangles?
Missing people.
Bodies of water.
Bodies of water, missing people, magnetic issues.
And just general weirdness.
Yeah, general woo. All right. So let's move on from that, because we're just gonna sit here and just talk about missing crew all day long.
You could dig down on all of those.
Yeah, I will say this before we move on. before people are just like, well, obviously, like there must have been something wrong with the ship and they escaped, and then something happened to the lifeboats or something like that, or maybe there was a horrible storm and they all got knocked off. They were all working on the top of the ship and they all got splashed off or something. In almost all of these cases, when the boats were found and the crews from the other boats boarded them, they found the boats set up as if people should have just been right there. There's meals on the tables. There's clothes laid out because they were getting ready to take a shower, stuff like this was happening. And it was
In
like
one
literally
case, wasn't the
walking.
coffee still hot?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And in areas where there had not been storms or inclement weather of any kind. So just imagine how absolutely god awful creepy that had to have been to board a completely empty ship that looked as if a crew of 50 people had literally just walked right off of it into the ocean or something. It makes you wonder.
Remember one of the, well, we're going to moving on. Sorry. I was about to
Oh, no,
take this out of the river. I seem to recall, like with the Mary Celeste and a few others, one of those, I remember one of their explanations was that some of the cargo they were carrying down below was something that it was in containers, it was sealed up, but it had some kind of noxious gas in it, and some of those had busted open or something like that. So to get away from the noxious gas, they all hopped in the lifeboats. Like, well, we'll just drift off and we'll open all the windows, we'll open all the cabins, we'll let it air out, and then we'll come back. But they didn't moor themselves to the ship itself. They were just, we could just row. The winds are there. They left all the sails up and the wind started taking it away. And then basically the ship sailed away without them. And then, they were just left to their own devices out in this abandoned part of the ocean. And then somebody finds the boat later with them just gone.
Perhaps.
Could you imagine that feeling?
Oh, that'd be awful.
You had one job to tie the boat.
Right. You're the
That'd
first
be a
one we
sheep
eat.
shank. That's not how you do it. Just slithers off.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is the
no.
first one we eat.
Oh my goodness. All right. So let's move on to the Broadhaven Triangle. This one's in Wales. This one isn't quite as exciting as some of the others, but interesting nonetheless. This one is actually most known for UFOs and aliens. So this place, while it doesn't, it has a lot of stories to it, but it's almost all UFO sightings and alien encounters. This place is, however, yes, that's also a schoolyard one. Trying to remember. I can't remember the name of the school. Anyway, so the story was, it was like 1977.
Broadhaven Primary School.
Okay, yeah. A whole bunch of kids were out for recess and they had a UFO land like right near the schoolyard, and like the aliens got out, the kids saw them, and the kids were, half of them were crying and the other half were freaked out, and a couple of them actually had the forethought to run back inside to tell the teachers, but they couldn't explain what they were seeing because they didn't know what a UFO was. So they were trying to explain it, and the teachers actually got upset with the kids for like making up silly stories, and made them come back in. And of course, like the UFOs are gone by then, but so many of them went home and told their parents about it, and their parents were coming back to the school and were like, what are they talking about here? And finally the authorities got involved and they had the kids sit down and draw what they saw. So we have all of these. Yeah. And some of the kids actually said that the aliens talk to them inside their heads. Some of the kids, not all of them. So that's a big one that we could do a whole thing on if we wanted to.
Guy coming down the ramp with pointed ears.
Spock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a big deal. What I found interesting about the story, because I actually watched a YouTube video on this few months ago. A lot of these kids were taken aside by the authorities, and they told basically the same stories, but they were all just different enough for them to decide that they did not get together and say, "This is what we're going to say." It wasn't rehearsed.
Yeah.
They all saw it from different angles, but they all saw apparently the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't really dismiss it as, oh, they just got together and made up this story, because it was obvious they didn't. So
It makes me wonder, like, what the aliens were doing there. Like, why would they land where all these school kids were? Were they like looking for directions?
According to
They were
this
like, "Hey, there's a
BBC
place to
article,
land."
yeah, there you go. According to this BBC article, apparently Spielberg is doing a Netflix series about this event.
Oh wow!
oh, sweet.
This is from
Oh.
October 23, so it's just a few months ago.
Awesome. That would be cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a school. There ought to be some intelligent life there.
Yeah, some.
Little did they know.
The spaceship looked like a cigar shape with a dome on it with yellowy orange to red light on the top of it, one child told BBC cameras at the time. Ah, look at that. One boy said he didn't just see a UFO, adding, "I saw a man, but I couldn't see its face because it was too far away." Wow.
And they were wearing silvery metallic clothing, I believe one of them said.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
It sounds really similar. This wasn't the one that was in Africa, right?
no,
this
No.
is totally different.
Yeah, it sounds
it's very similar.
eerily
I mean, it's
similar.
almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
What year did this happen?
77.
77.
Wow.
Same year the missile base blew up in Rock, Kansas.
Damn
I don't think
aliens.
it's connected.
They said that this
Oh,
alien
okay.
was around 7 feet tall. Big boy. Wow.
That must have been a big ship, or he'd bump his head all the time.
I know. It's got a big door there.
Yeah, yeah. In Wales.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There have been 450 strange encounters reported from the seaside village in the Pembrokeshire Coast National Park, which is that whole area around there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
that's
just
wild.
heavy UFO alien encounter type area.
And this is one of their road signs. This is how serious they take.
You know, that kind of seems like almost an MO to me. Is it's all around national parks. Or no, I shouldn't say all of it, but a large
A lot
part
of stuff
them.
really is.
Mm-hmm.
When you
So
start
I
getting
get
into the missing 411 stuff and all that, national parks, maybe not the safest place to go by yourself.
that kind of makes me wonder if the powers that be made these national parks because there was stuff
I've
going
heard the
on.
theory before.
That is a theory. Yeah, I've read
Yep,
books on
that's a
that.
theory.
So, yeah,
Kind of
They're
quarantine
kind of-
zones. Yeah.
yeah, kind of protecting us from stuff.
Right.
Well,
It's
Or
a
maybe
national park.
keeping
We don't
us-
want you building up those big towns
Yeah.
and cities in
Yeah.
here.
book about Eisenhower and say that was part of the deal. They would let him kidnap so many people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another one we ought to do a story on that book.
Yeah.
The whole Eisenhower connection there.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite books. Oh, crazy stuff. Anywho, so if we move over to Scotland, we've got the same kind of situation happening, minus the school kids thing. So Falkirk Triangle, which is around the Stirling, Fife, Edinburgh area. That's what forms that triangle. And this is also a UFO alien hotspot. In fact, up until just the last count, they usually get around 300 sightings a year.
Wow.
Just in this area, right? They get unidentified lights. They get a lot of blue lights, oddly enough, floating blue lights that go along with these. UFO landings, they had 3 recorded UFO landings just in 1992. Recorded by authorities, not just, called in from grandma next door. The authorities saw it happen and
There's a flying
recorded
saucer in my backyard.
it. In 2012, a little interesting side story. Somebody found, like on the street, a box, and they picked it up, and inside of it were slides, like the old-fashioned slides.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
apparently they were all pictures of aliens and UFOs just on the streets of Edinburgh. And they've been sent off to like professionals, and apparently they claim that they've not been faked. They're actual photographs. So that one's interesting. In 1989, they had a very famous thing happen. They had this, they called it the red object because they said it was red and lit, but it looked like it was emanating from something solid, about the size of a big beach ball, and it chased a fire engine for a number of miles. Like played with it, like would chase it and then come up to the window and then back off and then chase it again.
I've heard stories like that, not with a fire engine, but I mean, I've heard of UFO stories about glowing red orbs, or sometimes other colors, but usually red.
Yeah.
Following cars and playing chicken
Mothman was known to chase cars quite a bit too.
That's true, and eat dogs.
Well, maybe he chased cars because he was eating dogs.
Probably. Apparently, so there's
right?
There's a road called A70 that goes out of Edinburgh, and apparently this is a UFO stretch. And they've had multitudes of cases of abductions with missing time. Apparently starting out at the beginning of the road and ending up miles and miles away. Hours and hours later, with all that missing time in there. There's tons of those stories.
Oh.
Yeah, and then just more stuff. Assaults, UFO sightings, white lights, orange lights, red lights, strange lights, alien abductions, actual sightings of grays in the area. So it's just one of those. Yeah.
It's got it all.
It's got it all. The Falkirk Triangle in Scotland.
Sounds like a vacation opportunity.
Check that out.
Sure. Woo.
Hey, at this point in my life, an alien abduction would be a rescue mission.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Croatia. The PAG triangle, the PAG triangle. So the anomalies here, it's actually, okay, how do I explain this? It looks like a gigantic landing site for a UFO. So if you look at it from above, I don't know if you can find a picture of it. I didn't even think to get a picture of this thing. So
I've got it.
It's a perfect layer of the exact same size rock in a perfect isosceles triangle. And then on the outside of that is another layer of rock, all of the same kind, but slightly bigger, that creates like this perfect little barrier around it. But they claim it's all natural, but it looks like somebody like took a gigantic triangle stamp and just pressed it down on top of the ground.
Right there.
And they claim it's a landing site for UFOs.
That whole area is full of tons of super sharp rocks. You can't even hardly walk in that area, except right there. It's a very dangerous area. It will destroy your footwear and soon thereafter your foot. Even the roads are full of sharp rocks and are difficult to traverse.
Yeah. Now, this isn't actually part of Croatia proper. It's actually its own little tiny island, right?
Yeah.
It's just a little island with this like perfect imprint right there in the center of it. And another interesting thing, so it's got a lot of UFO traffic, a lot of lights, blah blah blah, all the normal things that you see. But the interesting thing is like this has a priest involved with it. There's a Catholic priest, and I cannot pronounce his name. I apologize. You'll have to look it up and look at the weird mix of letters. I don't know how even to pronounce it. But he has some kind of a weird relationship to this island. He talks about it a lot. He says it has something to do with the Holy Trinity. Anywho, whenever he talks about it, he experiences stigmata. And any of you who don't know what that is, stigmata is the act of taking on the injuries that Jesus Christ took on while on the cross. So he like bleeds from the wrist, he bleeds from the feet, he gets the crown of thorns across his forehead. Whenever he talks about this island, and he does it often, apparently he like does talks on this. He goes to places to speak of this place and its involvement with the Holy Trinity, and he will get stigmata while discussing it. I don't know.
That is
Wow.
yeah. Wow, that's wow.
That's
Yeah, I don't even know. So I just putting it out there. Now you all can know too. It's weird.
Alrighty then.
Yeah. So moving on from that nugget of fun. The Romblin Triangle in the Philippines.
The Romblin.
Uh-huh. Romblon. And we're gonna go back to some normal stuff here, as normal as you can get with a triangle. So we got vanishing ships, shipwrecks, and ghost ships involved with this area.
Well, ghost ships are fun. I mean,
Yes. This was the site, unfortunately, of one of the largest times when ships collided with a death toll, but an even higher number of completely missing people. So this one's a weird one. So in 1987, a ship called I'm guessing the Donapaz, it's kind of spelled weird, collides with another ship called the Vector. There was an accumulation of 4,300 people altogether on both of these ships. They found about 30 or 40 of them dead, and the rest of them are just gone. They didn't find bodies. They didn't find anything. Just out of all those people that were on those ships, they found just like that few bodies.
yep. There's the collision.
Yeah.
And then there's this
So
one.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of these where like just ships collided together, and I'm wondering if there was some kind of it's a magnetic anomaly thing where their instruments weren't working correctly or something. In 1980, the Don Juan collided with Tacloban. 1004 missing or dead. In 2008, the Princess of the Stars capsized. 437 dead, but over 600 missing.
That's this one right here.
Yeah. In 1989, the Jern or the Gem sank. 174 dead or missing. And during World War II, they had 4 Japanese ships sink there. Anywho, so I mean, it keeps going on. So there's been all these collisions, which is strange. But there's actually like a story to go along with it. They believe that these crashes are caused by a ghost ship that sails too close to the other ships and causes them to go off course so that they will collide with another boat. Like they
Oh, wow.
push them.
But they're
into
not
it.
able to see the other ship. That's my thing with all of this is like they have lookouts that look out for other
Yeah.
things out there.
Yeah,
I don't know,
several
but
of these
like,
happen during broad daylight during good weather. So
yeah, they
Yeah.
happen during broad daylight. Yeah. So the
Huh.
ghost ship is kind of spectacular, apparently. So it pushes them. It looks as if it's a real ship, and it rides alongside them and literally, pushes them off course until they hit these other ships. But they say if you see it at night or right as the sun is going down, the sails are made of pure gold, and they shimmer in that light before they disappear, because this thing doesn't work at night. It works during the day. It's like a ghost ship for the day,
A solar powered ghost ship.
I guess. It's
gotta go
interesting,
green.
Yeah. But that's what happens in the Romblin Triangle, is this ghost ship that
Oh.
just, supposedly causes these collisions. Yeah.
But it's weird.
It is.
That is
It's very strange.
it is weird.
All right. The Whitewater Triangle in Wisconsin.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
This one is interesting. So this triangle isn't caused by 3 different cities. It comes off of 3 different cemeteries.
Oh.
Right? And this one is interesting because it's really ghost and witches based. Oddly enough.
That's different.
And cryptids that come up out of the lake that's in the center of it. They dubbed the triangle the second Salem because of the witch issues that they've had there. It also apparently right by the lake has what they called the Witch's Tower. It's not an actual tower. I think it's like some natural rock that has all sorts of weird symbols all the way around it. Anywho, like 2 pages worth of haunted things just within this little triangle, besides the cemeteries, schools, churches, anything you think of, houses.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like a haunted triangle.
Hmm.
And then the next one I have,
That could be a road trip, people.
it could be the Alaska Triangle. Who wants to go on that one?
I do.
I mean, we've talked about this one before. It's
Yep.
lots of weird stuff happens there. All kinds of crazy cryptids, from beaver people, missing
Yeah.
aircraft, missing senator.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
That was
There
a
was
big one.
There was something in the
Justice
water
310.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. I can't remember what they called it, but it was like almost like a mermaid, but a really vicious type mermaid.
The Kashtaka
That's
The
it.
demon.
Kostaka. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Good
So
pull.
we've got the vanishing planes. We've got missing hikers, which
Missing ships.
frankly, missing hikers, it's going to happen in Alaska.
Mhm.
It's an
That's
unforgiving.
the thing about
triangle.
Alaska is you get a little bit outside of some of those small towns. It's dense wild
Yeah.
forest, and it's
You're pretty
And here
screwed.
comes
like
the
no
grizzly
humans
and
ever
he's
step there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got aliens, UFOs, energy vortexes, magnetic anomalies. The secret Black Pyramid, that the government's keeping hidden from us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, so I went and double checked this just to be sure, and it's correct. Since the 1970s up until this year, 20,000 people have gone missing within the triangle.
Wow.
20,000.
But that's a
No
giant
lie.
area, though. That's most of
It is.
all of Alaska. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it is huge. But still, even when you look at that number, 20,000 people, that's almost as many people that live in our county.
Right.
Well, here to give you an idea. So if you break that down, anywhere from 500 to 2,000 people go missing there every year. So consider it that way. It gets really harsh really fast. You're like, God.
Yeah,
But it's like Enzo said,
yeah.
it's not the most habitable place. Some
That's
extreme
true.
weather.
Right.
It's still the wild out there. There are things out there that will eat you,
Well,
because they need food too.
The
Yeah.
entire Alaska population is 733,000. So for 20,000 people to go missing every, what was that period of time you gave? How many people did you say?
In a year or since 1970?
In a year, I guess.
In a year, it's anywhere from 500 to 2,000 people, depending.
That's a pretty good chunk
of the population. Yeah.
Well, now remember, it's not just the local population. Many people fly into this place every day, and some of them don't come back because they're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know exactly what they're walking into. Well, I mean, really. I mean, they're like, oh, let's go on an Alaskan adventure. And then,
Yes.
bye-bye, idiot.
I gotta go pee behind this tree, and Mr. Grizzly's going, ooh, look, the snack delivered itself.
Yep.
The grizzly sees the plane coming in. It's like, my Uber Eats has arrived.
Yeah. Wonder what's on the menu today. I feel like a fat white guy.
So
that's the thing is, if they're hardy enough to survive the winters out there, they are very stout creatures that live out there. They do not mess around.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, they will eat you.
They
don't care.
Been to Fairbanks many times. We got a base up there. Amazingly beautiful area, but you don't mess around with the wildlife. Everybody I knew that they were like avid hunters and fishermen, and they would take practically the same weapons loadout to go fishing as they would to go hunting, just to be on the safe side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've heard people talk that live up there, and they said it's not anything to lose a few people from the area you live in yearly, just because, I mean, the cold got them. Like they went out too far and they froze to death. And they really don't care that much. They're kind of in the mind thought of, survival of the fittest, Mother Nature's thinning out the herd. If you weren't stupid, you wouldn't have died. So
Darwin Award.
Good.
Yeah, and for somebody from the lower 48 to go up there, depending on what time of the year it is, because it's so far north that in the wintertime, like I was near Fairbanks, which is kind of like in the middle of the state, the shortest day of the year, the winter, equinox, it was like the sun would come up in the south and the disk of the sun was right on the horizon, and then it would go right back down. It was like 45 minutes or not quite an hour of actual sunlight where the disk of the sun was above the horizon. Right. But the summers are the exact opposite. The sun rises in the northeast and goes all the way around the sky, and it's just below the horizon. So it's like dusk for like that hour, and then it comes right back up again. So it's easy to get very disoriented. And not know what time it is and lose your direction up there.
Oh, yeah. How do you find your direction when the sun is going around you in a circle?
Yeah. You don't have your standard east-west sunrise, sunset.
Right.
And I guess if you know the stars and you hope it ain't cloudy, you'd be able to navigate pretty well in the wintertime. But you're freezing your butt off, because I saw -30, -40 ambient air temperature. Normally, fortunately, there around the Fairbanks area, they don't get very much wind at all, to the point where even like a 3 to 5 mile an hour breeze is like unusual in the wintertime. They even have a thing they call it ice fog, where all the street lights in the towns are set up to be really short. They like let just a couple cars through, and then it'll go through the cycle, and then a couple more cars through. It goes fast. Because if you're sitting there just idling, the exhaust from your vehicle doesn't dissipate. It just grows and grows and grows into this impenetrable cloud that you now have to drive through the intersection with that. So that's why they cycle them through pretty quick.
No, and it
But-
does
Wow.
get incredibly cold. Wind chills of 100 degrees below zero. One year, just out of curiosity, I was looking, and the actual temperature in Alaska was actually lower than the median temperature on Mars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cold.
So, I mean, it gets
Done
cold.
the old take the hot cup of coffee right out of the pot outside and you throw it up in the air and it's just like little tiny frozen pellets of coffee fall down. It's like, what?
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yeah. Anywho, Alaska's triangle is so crazy that they have their own show on it. I think it's on Discovery. It's an entire series. It's been running for like 3 or 4 years now, just on the stuff that happens inside the Alaskan Triangle. So if you're interested, go check that out. I'm sure you can probably find it on YouTube.
What was the famous
Body count wise, it makes the Bermuda Triangle look like a piker.
Yeah.
Was it Hillock? Was that the famous town there that got attacked by the Bigfoot or the wild man or the hairy man and killed a bunch of people and ran everybody out of the town?
Yeah,
there's
left.
so many stories we would have to do a series on it to get through them on. Yeah, every cryptid you can think of.
Some you can't.
Some you can't. Black pyramids and alien invasions and alien holes where they go in and out of to their base under the ground, and
those super creepy guys on that crab boat show. Yeah, those guys are that whole place is weird.
Yeah, it's weird. Anywho, so moving on because we're coming into 2 hours here, and I see that Phil's starting to fade again on us.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take off. We've got to go move chickens. We've got baby chicks. We got to get out of the brooder.
Oh, you got babies. How many you get?
Yep. Right now we've got 10. One died. We got to get out of there, and then we got 3 more before I come up here getting ready to hatch. So
awesome.
we're going to give it some time to see if they hatch before we open it up. But yep, it's just the way it is. So it's new breed of chickens and all that good stuff. So
awesome. That's fun. That sounds like fun, actually.
Yeah, and be sure to get on the Night Acres and watch their YouTube channel. My wife and I have been watching the baby chickens develop. So I'm looking forward to the next installment.
Yeah, we'll probably be filming tonight, moving them and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what I got to run for. I got to go down and take care of that because we had one hatch 48 hours ago, and it's time to get it out because we don't want it to die. But that's the fine line you got to walk is if you open it too soon while there's some trying to hatch, they'll like vacuum seal inside the shell, and they'll die. You know, but then again, if you got a bunch out that are a couple of days old, well, they're going to die if you don't get them out. So I hate it, but that is what it is. So, but yeah, guys, I'm glad I got hang out with you for a little while anyway.
Glad you could too.
Yeah, right. I probably won't be back until May. So it's just that time of year. It's busy, but
yep. Good luck with soccer.
Yep. Yeah, we got a game tomorrow night, then Wednesday night, then practice Thursday night, and then Saturday we got a game, and then Monday, then Tuesday. No, Monday, then Wednesday, then Thursday. Yeah, it's busy. So, but yeah, you guys, I mean, it's been fun. Hate to run, but I got to get this taken care of before I go to bed. So,
yeah, it looks like you're going to fade before you get down the stairs.
I probably will. It'll wake me up when I get down.
Moving.
Yeah, when you hit the bottom,
baby chicks jumping around on his head.
I'm just going to, as someone who's been down those stairs at Phil's house, they're really easy to get down. I mean, you might make all of the stairs all in one shot.
Yeah, they're steep. So
they
are. Y'all, you guys have a good evening. And,
take it
you
easy,
too.
We'll
see ya.
Yep, take it easy.
Night, Phil.
Yep.
So, my last one on my list is Bermuda Triangle, which we've already done. But I have a 14th one. Because they're kind of like, maybe it's a triangle, maybe it's not. So the Nevada Triangle, which encompasses the Area 51 area. It goes from Las Vegas, Fresno, and Reno, makes the triangle. I think it should be one. For instance, they've had 2,000 planes lost in the last 60 years just within this triangle area.
Which they have not found a lot of them.
No, they have not. But it's kind of a rough area out there also.
It is pretty rough.
Yeah. But then you could go into all the Area 51 stuff and blah, blah, blah.
And how many of those planes got shot down because they got too close to something they shouldn't have got too close to?
Maybe.
I would say more than one.
They might have gotten a little too close to Confederate gold, too. Just saying.
Oh,
that could be too.
That's an interesting idea.
Gold?
Yeah.
Where gold? Me need gold.
Confederate money hidden in the area. Just putting that out there. Might need to do a show on that sometime. A little,
Might need to go a little looky. Yep,
well, we can't go looky because the guys in the black trucks will stop you.
Ammo dudes.
I'm good at sneaking. I'm stealthy for
the mailbox.
Well, look, you got China Lake, Las Vegas, Area 51. Isn't White Sands out there someplace? Or is that farther over to the west?
I think White Sands is further over that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little off that map.
Where is dang it, I can't remember the name of that other big Air Force base out there. Isn't that in there too?
Yeah.
Edwards Air Force Base?
Edwards, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's south of there. It's it's like
there is one. What is that called?
I've been there a few times. Got to see the space shuttle land there once.
That would have been slick. I would have liked that.
That was pretty cool. That thing, I thought I was going to see it crash because it is falling almost straight down. You hear the double sonic booms coming through the atmosphere, and it looks like it's falling straight down, and it's right over the end of the runway, and it kind of flares out and then does a normal landing. It's like, how did it do that?
Yeah, that's some good flying right there.
Nellis. Nellis is out there.
Nellis.
Yeah, that's on the opposite side of where Las Vegas is.
Nellis is no longer functional, is it?
Oh no, it's still there. They do like red flag tournaments and stuff like that over there, where they have fighter groups come in from different areas all over the world. And because half of Nevada is a shooting range of some type,
right,
or fashion.
I thought the Marines moved out of Nellis.
I don't know about the Marines. It's an Air Force base. So
is it an Air Force base?
Yeah, there's still plenty of stuff there.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's what I got.
There's a lot of stuff. Like I said, it's a huge subject. As you said, you could make a whole series on it.
And we didn't really stray that far off of it and still managed to squeezing it into 2 hours and just lightly hitting on a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even heard of.
Even with our rabbit holes, we didn't do too badly. Maybe only 15.
That's pretty good.
15 minutes of rabbit holes isn't bad for this group.
Well, it's very good.
I think if Jess could have reached out through the camera and whacked me in the back of the head a couple times, she probably would have.
Look at that.
That fools you. I like it.
Yep, but it was fun. I was never gotten to do a show on those. I had all that information sitting there and have never gotten to use it for a show, so that was fun.
Well, now you have. Yay.
I didn't know you had all the individual triangle stuff like that already. Because I was like, oh, okay, we made it to like an hour with us like doing all the, you're talking about,
Yeah, that's just wild vortices.
like,
We haven't even hit the triangles yet.
I didn't realize you had that many. It's like, well, okay. I'll sit here and shut up.
Absolutely. See, you
some
can
of them
see
don't.
the depths of that's just my own research. That was like, I'm interested in vortices and triangles today. Let's research this. Aren't I a nerd?
It's fun to see the look on your face when I wander off. Yes, it is. I really thought I was going to get smacked through the camera once or twice.
I know my place. I just let it go. And then when it starts getting too weedy, then I pull them back in. And I'm like, hey, remember what we were talking about?
Yeah. I need a producer with a hot shot.
I'm imagining Jess just like reaches behind her and grabs that planchette off of the wall and just chucks it in the air, and then it suddenly hits you in the head. It's like, what?
Oh, that would be a cool trick.
That would be a cool
Actually,
trick.
I'm only like 2 blocks away from him. I could probably just leave my window and you'd see me in just a couple of minutes. Just
with the winds in Kansas, that's very possible. Yeah.
Oh, dang. How'd you get back there? Magic.
Get a frisbee in the head.
You hear me in the background. Hi, Chris. Don't mind me. Smack.
Look, Chris says you do a good job. You need a raise.
I do need a raise. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
Am I supposed to be getting paid? I haven't been paid.
Oh. Wait.
Was I supposed to be getting...
Look.
This is my paid guest appearance.
Enzo's making it rain.
Make it rain, buddy.
Making it rain.
I'll pay you back on our next road trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing the only road trip will be back to that restaurant. And
I mean, that is definitely going to be a stop. I mean,
that was a good restaurant.
Not gonna lie, I want to try everything on the menu. It's just too far to go. I guess I could just camp out in there and eat till I explode. $500 later.
Yes.
Oh my God. I feel like the ending of Life of Brian when you just explode.
Yeah, Life of Brian. That was it.
Yes.
So mincer, it's wafer thin.
Oh my goodness. Well, if I'm going to start getting paid, I'm all about this. Let's do this.
That's right.
All right. Well,
I get paid by your presence.
Oh.
Yes.
Presents.
All right. Well, it was a good show, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. And thank you for keeping me from getting too far into the weeds.
Absolutely.
I reined in myself too. I certainly could.
Yeah, you get me started on Atlantis and Lost Civilizations. I go a little bonkers.
I just say the words Younger Dryas and Mark's like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep.
He does. Yeah, so everybody at home, be careful. Don't go walking into any vile vortices or triangles.
Right.
And I hope we get Pam back.
Yeah, I really
locator beacon.
We should have bought her.
She may not come back. I don't know. So
I've always thought about that. It's like, I know there's got to be some wacko out there that's read all the 411 books and thinks they're going to find out, and they're just going to go wandering out in one of these places to check it out and vanish and have nothing on them. They won't have any kind of like a compass or a GPS unit or a map or anything.
Yep. According to Pilates, people have disappeared while carrying a gun. People have disappeared while wearing a locator, but nobody has disappeared while having both.
Yeah.
So carry your GPS locator and carry a weapon.
Carry that gun.
And you should be able to come back. There you go. Nice.
You just shot that dude in the head.
Okay, he got away.
Yep, there you go. All right. Well, good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.
Excellent show, my friend.
And we are out.
Awesome.
Katie.